The stock market was booming, lights flashing, traders shouting, everything moving, until it didn't. In a remote corner of the world, power grids failed, banks froze, communication went silent, and not a single missile was fired. Because this isn't a traditional war. This is a war waged with lines of code. A digital weapon so advanced, so quiet, it slips past every firewall, every radar, every defense system built in the last 50 years, and once it gets in, it doesn't explode. It erases, it rewrites, it controls. Most people think cyber attacks are just hackers stealing passwords. But what if I told you there's a weapon designed not to steal, but to collapse? An invisible system that once activated can bankrupt a country in hours, destabilize governments, and wipe out trillions in national wealth, all without leaving a fingerprint. And here's the terrifying part. It already exists. It's been tested. In fact, its first trial may have cost over $52 billion, and almost no one noticed. Today, you're not just watching a video. You're entering the classified layer of digital warfare, where governments don't declare war, they just deploy and update. You're about to see how software became sovereign, how code replaced combat, and how nations now fall from the inside out. The first test? It didn't happen in New York or Beijing. It happened beneath the desert sands of Iran. And what they learned there changed everything. It started with a malfunction. Deep beneath the Iranian desert, inside one of the most secure nuclear facilities in the world, technicians noticed something strange. Their centrifuges, massive machines used to enrich uranium, were spinning out of control. Then, slowing down. Then, back to normal. Except nothing was normal. No alarms, no explosions, no human error, just a slow, invisible sabotage that only one thing could explain. The machines weren't broken. They were being controlled. That's when the world met Stuxnet, the world's first digital weapon built not to spy, but to destroy physical infrastructure. Unlike traditional malware, Stuxnet didn't steal files or crash computers. It had a single target, the centrifuge systems at Natanz. It rewrote industrial controls while showing fake, normal readings to the operators. So while technicians saw green lights, the machines were quietly tearing themselves apart. The weapon was allegedly crafted by two unlikely allies, the United States and Israel. Its mission? Delay Iran's nuclear capabilities without a single airstrike. And it worked. For over a year, Stuxnet spread quietly, hopping from USB sticks to Windows systems across the globe, waiting to find its precise target. When it did, it executed flawlessly. According to leaked intelligence, it destroyed nearly 1,000 centrifuges, roughly 20% of Iran's total enrichment capacity at the time. But here's what few realize. The economic impact of that digital strike was enormous. Iran's nuclear delay reshaped oil markets, triggered global sanctions, and rerouted billions in regional defense spending. One economic analysis estimated the ripple effects exceeded $52 billion globally, all from a single piece of code. And Stuxnet was just the beginning. Because once the world saw that a line of software could cripple a nuclear facility without setting foot inside it, a new arms race began. Except this time, it wasn't about bombs. It was about back doors. In the years that followed, dozens of advanced persistent threats, APT-29, Equation Group, Flame, Duke, emerged in the shadows, not for mass destruction, but for precision destabilization. What makes this terrifying isn't just the technology, it's the plausible deniability. When a bomb goes off, you know who launched it. But when a financial system collapses after a software glitch, or a country's power grid dies in the middle of winter due to a technical failure, who do you blame? Stuxnet showed it was possible to cause irreversible damage and still deny everything. Worse, it proved that software could now target what used to be untouchable: infrastructure, water systems, power plants, oil pipelines, airports, even banks. And once infrastructure becomes code, the battlefield becomes limitless. But here's the part almost no one talks about. When the US and Israel unleashed Stuxnet, they didn't just sabotage Iran, they opened Pandora's box. Other nations were watching and learning. Because if someone could take down uranium centrifuges in a secure bunker, what's stopping them from targeting the power grid of an entire country? And what if it's already happened? Quietly, precisely, and without a single headline. Because shortly after Stuxnet, something very strange did happen. Thousands of miles away, another country's lights went out. And this time, the damage wasn't just digital, it was personal. And it raised a chilling question. What if digital weapons weren't just tools of espionage, but rehearsals for something far bigger? The question hung in the air. What if digital weapons weren't just tools of espionage, but rehearsals for something far bigger? It didn't take long to get an answer. December 23rd, 2015, just 2 days before Christmas. Across western Ukraine, hundreds of thousands of homes slipped into darkness. Power vanished, phones died, the internet cut out. At first, it looked like an infrastructure failure. But then investigators found something chilling. Operators at 3 Ukrainian power companies were logged out of their own systems by someone else. Cursor movements appeared on their screens, clicking through the control interfaces, flipping breakers remotely. It was like watching a ghost navigate the grid. Except it wasn't a ghost. It was a digital invader. And it had been inside the system for 6 months, learning every switch, every protocol, every vulnerability. This was the first confirmed cyber attack to take down a power grid in human history. The weapon was later identified as Black Energy, a malware toolkit designed not just to disrupt, but to command. It bypassed login credentials, mapped out entire infrastructure networks, and then, when the timing was right, struck. But this wasn't a chaotic act of cybercrime. It was coordinated, methodical, and eerily precise. While technicians scrambled to restore manual controls, something even more sinister was discovered. The attackers had also planted fake system updates, laced with code that would give them access again whenever they wanted. Ukraine eventually restored power, but the message was clear. Your control systems are not yours anymore. What made the attack especially disturbing was its psychological design. The hackers didn't just flip switches, they taunted the operators, locked them out, overrode their commands, watched as humans lost control of the very machines they built to be safe. It wasn't destruction for profit, it was a show of power. Western intelligence agencies believed the attack was a Russian-backed operation, but they couldn't prove it. No country took credit, no retaliation ever came. Because in cyber warfare, proof is optional, and silence is strategy. But the real question wasn't who did it, it was why. Why test this kind of weapon on a regional grid in Ukraine? Because it was isolated, contained, a safe sandbox to simulate something much larger. What if the same attack hit New York, London, or Tokyo? Power stations aren't just energy. They run hospitals, airports, banks, water systems. With the right code, an entire megacity could be paralyzed in minutes. And here's the part no one likes to admit. Most global infrastructure today runs on decades-old industrial control systems, patched together over time, often without encryption, often without modern defenses, systems that were never designed to face digital enemies, let alone nation-state weapons. In private briefings, U.S. defense officials have reportedly warned of a cyber Pearl Harbor scenario, where an invisible strike takes down multiple cities without a single physical invasion. But there's one layer that's even more fragile than power. It doesn't light up homes. It doesn't move planes. It moves money. Because while a blackout is visible, a financial attack can go completely unnoticed until it's far too late. And just like the Ukrainian grid, it only takes one entry point. So the next question is simple and terrifying. What happens when this weapon stops targeting power and starts targeting the global market itself? They started with power, but power isn't the ultimate weapon. Money is. After Ukraine's blackout, cybersecurity analysts began noticing something stranger and far more dangerous. Isolated financial anomalies, sudden price swings, stock crashes in emerging markets with no logical trigger. It wasn't just volatility, it was something else. In 2016, U.S. intelligence flagged a group called Lazarus, allegedly tied to North Korea. Unlike most cyber actors, they didn't steal passwords or cause chaos for fun. They did something far more methodical. They hacked into financial institutions, then traded on the outcomes. In other words, they didn't break the market, they played it. This was the first time a nation-state weaponized the market itself. One attack hit the Bangladesh Central Bank. The hackers used the SWIFT financial network, trusted by nearly every bank on Earth, to initiate $951 million in fake transfers. Most were blocked, but they still got away with $81 million. All with the same tools used to execute digital blackouts, just pointed at capital. Since then, financial markets have become a silent battlefield. AI-generated trading bots, spoofed order books, malware that monitors hedge fund positions in real time. You think trading is rigged? Sometimes it literally is. But here's the twist. Many of these operations don't aim to crash the system. They aim to shake it, just enough to profit from the turbulence. Think about that. A cyber group initiates a subtle disruption in a country's bond market, short sells related assets, then cashes out once panic hits. It's the perfect crime, because by the time investigators trace the origin, the money is gone, and the signal lost in the noise of global markets. Some experts believe smaller nations have already been financially manipulated this way, used as stress tests. Not enough to cause collapse, just enough to measure how the system reacts. A digital stress fracture here, a liquidity crisis there. And the best part for the attackers? Most retail investors never see it coming. It's all dressed up as volatility. Which raises a disturbing possibility. What if major crashes aren't always natural? What if some were manufactured, or at least amplified by invisible actors? We're not saying every dip is sabotage, but once you understand the weapon, you start to see fingerprints everywhere. If this is opening your eyes, even a little, consider leaving a like, not for the algorithm, so more people see what's actually moving the system. Because here's where it gets darker.
The next evolution of this weapon doesn't just attack through trades or blackouts. It doesn't need to touch money. It doesn't even need to move a single dollar. It works by changing reality itself. And it's already been tested, quietly, successfully. What if one single algorithm could simulate a crisis so real that entire nations react as if it's happening, when it's not?
What if a single algorithm could simulate a crisis so real, entire nations react as if it's happening, when it's not? That's not science fiction. It's already happened. In 2010, the US market experienced what became known as the flash crash. Within minutes, the Dow Jones plunged nearly 1,000 points, wiping out over $1 trillion in value before bouncing back just as fast. The cause? A single algorithm flooding the market with sell orders. There was no terrorist attack, no economic news, no war, just code. It revealed a terrifying truth. Under the right conditions, the entire financial system could be manipulated, not by destroying it, but by simulating panic inside it. Now imagine that concept on a geopolitical scale. Insiders have warned of systems built to weaponize perception, tools that can spoof central bank activity, fabricate institutional trades, or manipulate macroeconomic indicators in real time, not to destroy markets, but to trigger human response. Sell-offs, currency runs, policy changes. Imagine a fake inflation signal that causes a government to raise interest rates, a false credit downgrade that makes investors flee, or a fabricated shortage that spikes global prices. No bullets, no hacks, just data engineered to feel real. In 2022, a leaked report from a European cybersecurity agency described simulations run by unnamed state actors using synthetic financial attacks. These didn't breach any system. They simply injected misinformation into high-frequency trading streams, triggering real market movements based on false signals. And no one noticed. Because the genius of the weapon is that it uses the market's own reflexes against itself. Like pushing a domino in the middle of a chain and watching the rest fall without touching a thing. This isn't just economic warfare, it's narrative warfare, coded into numbers. But what happens when the next synthetic collapse is aimed not at a market, but at the operating system of a nation itself? Because behind all these tactics, code, algorithms, signals, lies something deeper. A back door, a hidden access point planted years ago. And it's not just in the market, it's inside the digital core of dozens of countries. What if the most powerful weapon of all is already installed and waiting? The most powerful weapon isn't a missile. It's a line of code that's already inside your government systems. For years, developing nations have received generous offers from powerful countries and tech giants, software to manage elections, control infrastructure, modernize entire bureaucracies, often for free, fast, easy, seamless. But buried in these contracts, beneath legal jargon and technical diagrams, are lines no one notices. Tiny clauses allowing external maintenance access, periodic data diagnostics, remote update rights. In cybersecurity circles, they're known as sovereign backdoors. And once they're in forever. These backdoors grant silent control over water systems, telecoms, power grids, even central banks. Not total domination, just enough to intervene, delay, redirect. Enough to make a government hesitate. Leaks from intelligence briefings suggest that over 40 countries have already installed software with such access points, unknowingly. One case stands out.
A South American country experienced a sudden nationwide outage in its ID verification system. Airports shut down, borders froze, banks locked accounts. The government blamed a data sync error. But off record, officials admitted the system froze after refusing a foreign diagnostic ping. They'd lost control, and they didn't even know it. The terrifying part is, these systems don't need to be activated with aggression. Just the threat of activation is enough. A silent negotiation tool, hidden in plain sight. Which leads to the final, unavoidable question. If the critical systems of your nation can be turned off remotely, who really governs your country?
In war, the most dangerous weapon isn't the one you see. It's the one you didn't know was there. Across the world, servers hum quietly in basements of ministries, data centers, and defense buildings. They look harmless, but inside them, beneath the updates, the dashboards, the security layers, something else waits. Access, control, a silent agreement written in code. This is no longer about who has the biggest army or the strongest economy. It's about who controls the off switch. And the most chilling part? That switch may already exist inside your country, installed with permission, hidden in a patch, waiting for a signal. They don't need to invade. They don't even need to threaten. They just wait. Because the next great war won't be declared on TV. It will be triggered by a simple line of code. And when it happens, the world won't explode. It will simply disconnect. If this video made you think differently about power, code, and control, leave a like. And if you want to be the first to see what they try to bury next, subscribe. Because the next secret isn't just coming, it's already running.